Since DS became its own brand back in 2014, it's relied solely on cars that were created at a time when it was still Citroën DS, the DS3, the DS4, the DS5. Yeah, they might not have Citroën badges on anymore, but fundamentally, they are the same cars. What DS needed was an all-new car, a car that never wore a Citroën badge at all, that was developed entirely by DS, and that really lived up to the DS brand image of luxury and comfort. Well, that car has finally arrived. Welcome to the DS7 Crossback. Before I get going, make sure you like this video, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, make sure you visit newmotoring.com, and make sure you click on the little bell icon next to our channel name, because then you'll know exactly when we've uploaded a new video. Now, of course, this is still part of PSA, this is still part of the Peugeot Citroën DS group, but the idea is that you're buying into something that is less mainstream, a more luxurious lifestyle. Apparently there are even DS exclusive events that you can attend. Don't know what they are, but they sound intriguing. Engines? Well, at the moment you can have a 1.6 litre turbo petrol with either 180 brake horsepower or 225 brake horsepower, and that comes with an 8-speed automatic gearbox. You can have a 1.5 litre diesel with 150 brake horsepower and a 6-speed manual, or you can have a 2 litre diesel with 180 brake horsepower and an 8-speed automatic gearbox. There will also be a plug-in hybrid with 300 horsepower coming sometime in 2019, which I'm quite looking forward to. This particular car, finished in Byzantine gold, which I think is actually quite a cool colour, is a 2 litre turbo diesel, so it's got 180 brake horsepower, 295 pounds-feet of torque, 0 to 62 miles an hour will take 9.9 seconds, and the top speed is 134 miles an hour, and it will get around 57 mpg. How does it feel? Well, power comes in at about 2000 RPM, pulls all the way to about 3,500 RPM, and after that it's lacking, and annoyingly the gearbox actually tends to rev it out when you really put your foot down. The suspension is very, very soft. That's one of the things that DS has really worked on. And you can change how the suspension feels as well, with a little button on the centre console that goes from sport, normal and comfort. And that also changes the steering, the gearbox and the throttle response. But the system that DS is really proud of is something called Active Scan. And what it does is it scans the road surface ahead and adjusts the suspension before you get to the bump, so it should, in theory, be more comfortable. In reality though, I think it's just too soft. I don't think it works properly on British roads. There's too much suspension travel, it takes too long for the ride to settle down and sort itself out once you hit a bump, and the wheel control just isn't there. You can just feel them bouncing around all over the place. It might work in France, but I just don't think it works here. You also struggle to get the power down. I know it's beautiful and sunny now, but earlier on it was horrendous weather, and the traction control light was flicking on and off just constantly, and part of that is down to the fact that when you hit a bump, any kind of bump, the wheels, they bounce around, and immediately the traction control system thinks, okay, we haven't got enough grip here, let's cut the engine power. And the thing is, you can only get the DS7 Crossback as a front-wheel drive car. You can't get it with a four-wheel drive system. The only one that will have a four-wheel drive system will be the 300 brake horsepower hybrid that will come next year. The steering is okay. It's a little bit too light for my liking. I know you can change that with the sport button, but I still think it's a little bit too light. And the car doesn't like quick direction changes particularly. If you try and turn the wheel a little bit too quickly and then switch back the other way, because the suspension is so soft, it just wobbles and rolls around. And actually, even just at low speeds, when steering feel and weight is less important, I still think it's a bit too light. One system that I do find quite cool though is night vision. Yes, this car really does have night vision. Little night vision cameras scan the road ahead, and apparently you can see things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to see, even with your full beams on. So you can see dogs, you can see animals, you can see people, you can see road signs, you can see other cars. What it does is it makes driving at night just that little bit safer. And it's not a distracting system either. You don't want to be stupid, obviously, and just look at the screen and look at the night vision rather than looking out of the road. That would be a ridiculous thing to do. But every now and then you just glance at it in the same way that you would glance at your rearview mirror. The gearbox, as I said, it's an 8-speed automatic, and it's the standard 8-speed auto that you find in other Citroens and Peugeots, and it's a good gearbox. It's nice and smooth, left to its own devices, and automatic. It knows which gear to be in at the right time. Sometimes it holds onto gears a little bit too long when you accelerate hard, but when you use the paddles, they've actually got quite a decent response to them. And even when you use the paddles, it's still smooth. A lot of the time in big SUVs, when they've got paddles, if you start using them, great, you change gear yourself, but it's not actually that smooth. In this, it is. Looks, I like it. There are a lot of SUVs around, and some of them, to be honest, look pretty much the same. But this does look different. It's not pretty, but there are just lots of little intricate details that really add something, like the rear lights or the headlights that are active, with little crystals in them that turn when you turn the car on. It's very cool. And although I chose gold, there are a couple on the launch today that are finished in black, all black. Black wheels, black paint, black everything basically, and tinted windows. And they look mean. They look really, really cool. Inside, it's an interesting place to be. Confusing at first. When I first got in this car, I didn't know where anything was, but you do get used to it. But it's different. It's different in the same way the Peugeot 3008 or 5008, their interiors are different. It's quirky and interesting in a very DS kind of way. The only slight irritation, I suppose, is that because it's part of PSA, some of the things in this cabin come straight out of other Peugeots and Citroens, like the paddles behind the steering wheel or the gear lever selector. Those are all standard parts. Prices start at £28,000 and they rise all the way to £43,000. And the hybrid, when that comes next year, that'll be £50,000. Dynamically, I think it's lacking in a few areas. Gearbox, engine, brilliant. Suspension, steering, less good, particularly the suspension. I think it's just too soft. But what I hear from other journalists who've been driving the cars today, that actually the cars without the active scan system, with more traditional suspension, they're actually driving a lot better. They just feel less wobbly than this car does. But as a car from DS, I think it's a real positive, because it shows that they're not just relying on those cars that they've had success with over the last 6 years. It isn't perfect, but it's a step in the right direction, and it's exactly what DS needed to do. And the next time you see me in one of these, I'll be on my way to Le Mans. It's my first time at the race, driving a DS7 Crossback all the way there. I'm rather looking forward to it.